Good afternoon, Jack. Jack Bell is with us today at the JCC. It's March 13th, and we're happy to have you. Jack, we're going to talk about your history, starting with when you were born, where you were born, hopefully knowing something about your grandparents, certainly your parents, and we'll keep on going. I know that your name was Itzhak.
Yitzchak.
And would you tell us about that? Where were you born?
I was born in Poland, 1944, in a little town called Neustadt, which was on the German-Polish border. The only reason I know that it was Neustadt because my mom was there, and I thought I needed to be close to my mom when I was born. Background on my parents, I can't verify this or swear to it 100%, but I think both parents were in various partisan groups that hid out in the forests in Poland, very similar to the movie called Defiant. Like I said, I have no way to prove this, but based on the stories that I've heard over the years from relatives, I think that is correct. My parents, like so many other Holocaust survivors, never really spoke to us about what they went through. So all this stuff I've had to piece together, and I'm sticking with the story. I was born Isaac Belzatsky. After the war, we lived in a suburb of Munich called Fürstenfeldbruck. Fürstenfeldbruck is the suburb where the Munich airport is located, and also the home of the Munich massacre, the Olympic massacre years ago. We lived in Fürstenfeldbruck for 4 or 5 years. My 2 younger brothers were born there. Dad was awaiting paperwork to be able to migrate to the United States. The organization that was instrumental in getting us here was HIAS, Hebrew Immigration Assurance Society. And what they did is they matched up a potential employee with a potential employer. The commitment on the employer's side was simply to provide a job. So my dad was a tailor. We landed in Ellis Island. Dad had a cousin that lived in New York, met us at the Medicine, Lower Manhattan, came over through Ellis Island. I remember that he gave my brothers and I some toys and tchotchkes. The next thing I know that I'm on a train to Dallas, Texas. So we landed in Dallas June 19th, 1949, and to people that grew up in Poland and Eastern Europe, the Texas heat was a shock to my parents' system. My dad worked for a company which is still around called Model Tailors. They were one of the few custom tailoring shops west of the Mississippi. The company is still around. I'm not sure what business they're in, but while my dad worked there, he moonlit at a tuxedo rental shop and kind of learned the trade of running a tuxedo shop while he worked for Skeffington's. Fast forward approximately 1956 or 7, he went out on his own, opened up a tuxedo shop on Oak Lawn between Lemon Avenue and Maple called Oak Lawn Tuxedo Rental. He and Mom ran that until Dad bought out one of his competitors in Snyder Plaza called Mr. Tuxedo. Dad ran Mr. Tuxedo, Mom ran Oak Lawn Tuxedo Rental. The brothers would help out on the weekends. Everything went fine. It put us through school until Mom got robbed. She got robbed on a Wednesday, went to the store on Friday to let out the tuxedos that had been rented for the weekend, came back in on Monday to received the tuxedos, and on Tuesday the store was closed. So she and Dad worked together at Mr. Tuxedo, which has been in Snyder Plaza probably since the early to mid-50s. Like I said, David and Harold and I worked at the stores weekends and holidays and things like that. It provided obviously a good income for Dad. All three of us went to college. I'll back up a minute. We moved from South Dallas to Preston Hollow in late '57. I attended Hillcrest High School, as did my brothers, as did my wife Louise, although I didn't know her at the time. From high school, I went to the University of Texas completely unprepared for college life and academia, et cetera, but it was one hell of a party for 3 semesters, flunked out, went to Tyler Junior College to get out of Dallas so I wouldn't be an embarrassment to the family. From Tyler Junior College, I kicked around, ultimately graduating from what is now the University of North Texas. Graduated in, I guess, midsummer, graduated on a Saturday or a Friday. Louise and I got married the following day. 2 weeks prior to graduation, I started working at what was called Republic National Bank. Was employed there for 25 years until the bank went bankrupt and I was downsized, which was the best thing that could happen to me. From the banking industry, I went into the investment banking industry and have been a financial advisor / stockbroker for a little over 22 years. Louise and I have 2 daughters. Both of them are in Austin. The oldest one is married, the youngest one isn't, but we're hopeful that somebody will pull the plug and ask her to be somebody's wife. Other than that, life is good.
I think you make it good. Let's go back. That's fabulous what you told me. Let's go back. If you were born in, when you say your parents hid in the forest, what type of, have you found out what it was like in Germany for them? They couldn't have been in the forest all that time.
In Germany, I have no clue as to what my dad did. I think he dealt in motorcycles. I have a vague recollection of having a line of motorcycles outside of the apartment that we lived in. Mind you, I was between the ages of 0 and 4.5 or 5 years old. What is interesting is that when we left Germany, or when we were in Germany, we were housed by Fräulein Horn. And as a remembrance, she gave us her family Bible, which was a New Testament, and it was a gorgeous piece of work. It had leather. It was leather bound. It had gold leaf edging. The plates were fantastic. After Mom and Dad died, it didn't fit into any one of our decorating schemes. So I had the Bible refurbished and we donated it to Perkins School of Theology at SMU. What was interesting is that my dad used the Bible as a notepad. So if you opened up the front page of the Bible, there were notations of phone numbers for his buddies and things like that. Fast forward approximately 2 years ago, Louise and I went to a lecture at Perkins, and I decided, well, I want to see if the Bible is here. So I asked the curator if they've heard of the Belzonsky Bible, and sure enough, they looked it up. It was in the vault, so they escorted us to a viewing room, and the curator came in with the white cotton gloves, showed us this Bible, and apparently it's worth a lot of money because it was kept in a vault. And the notations my dad had made were still there. So kind of ironic that we found the Bible pristine condition, and it was fantastic. Good segue into the name. As mentioned earlier, I was born Isaac Belzonsky. When we came to Dallas, we were housed at a basically boarding house on 2nd Avenue near Fair Park. The manager or the owner of that apartment building was named Jack, and I figured out Jack was a lot cooler than Isaac. So when we became citizens, my name was, as my parents, our name was legally changed from Belzonsky to Bell. So I was Jack Bell. Fast forward, and I don't remember the date, but the miniseries Roots, I'm sure that everybody will remember Roots, I then had my name legally changed again from Jack Bell to Jack Belzonsky Bell, and I'm referred to as Belzonsky by my close friends and things like that. So it's a little acknowledgement to our past,
To your roots.
to my roots, and I wish I knew more about it.
So you have no idea if they ever were, how they were treated in Germany?
I have no idea, and I have over the years, whenever I've traveled and when we had telephone books, I've always made it a point to look at a telephone book to see the name Belzonsky. Never found anything. I have gone on the internet and Googled Belzonsky and come to find out that it's a very popular name in Poland, and there's actually a Belzonsky Park in Łódź, but I haven't been able to do any more research beyond the fact that there's a park there. Occasionally, I'll run across a name that kind of looks like Belzonsky, and I'll make some phone calls and, come up dry. So
That's great.
we have no clue as to what happened prior to my parents. We never knew any of our grandparents. Mom was one of, I think, 8 or 9 siblings. She and an older sister were the only ones to survive. My dad apparently had 4 or 5 siblings, and the only way we knew their name was at the Holocaust Center, of which my dad was the founder.
Here in Dallas.
Here in Dallas. The only reason we knew their name is that Mom and Dad bought memorial plaques for each of their siblings and their parents. Beyond that, I'm absolutely clueless.
But that's wonderful that at least they have that on the plaques at the Holocaust Center, so
Yeah.
it is there. I'm curious, what language, was it German, Yiddish, what did your parents speak?
We call it Mamelution.
So it's Yiddish.
It was Yiddish.
Not German.
Not German. When the parents didn't want us to understand something, it was Polish. Never cared to learn any Polish. Never cared to learn any German. I still hold a grudge, and it's as simple as that.
But was Yiddish spoken in your home then, as you were growing up in
Oh, absolutely.
Dallas?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we're all very conversant in Yiddish. It worked for us, and we used Yiddish kind of code at the store when we didn't want the customer to know what we were talking about behind the customer's back. So, came in handy. Not having used it since my parents died 25 years ago, of course I've gotten kind of rusty in it.
Tell us who met you at the train station.
Who met us?
Yes.
It was cousin Carl, who is still alive. He lives in L.A. He was a hairdresser, and my dad stayed in touch with Carl and a couple of second cousins until they died, or until my parents died. But it wasn't, it just wasn't a very big family. What is interesting is that early on, my dad would get phone calls or letters or some sort of communication that so-and-so was found alive living in Australia or Argentina or Israel or something like that. But that was it. The entire family table would stand around or sit around the kitchen table. So it was, other than being immigrants, our growing up in Dallas was as normal as any other kids, except we didn't get into trouble. And the reason we didn't get into trouble was there was always this potential of, always this theory of you don't embarrass your family. So we were, for the most part, goody two-shoes growing up.
It's kind of a Jewish
Tradition.
model.
Yeah, absolutely.
And an immigrant.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a different culture and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons my academic career at University of Texas was so shoddy, is the fact that I got down there, I didn't have any adult supervision, and I went crazy.
It happens today. Plenty of those young kids.
Still happens today.
As freshmen. Well, what about, what was it like when you were growing up here? Did you belong to a synagogue?
We grew up in Shereth Israel. I can remember early on when Shereth Israel was located in South Dallas, and we lived on Forest Avenue, which is now MLK. I can remember walking to synagogue for our high holy days. My parents were not the most religious people in the world. I mean, we observed all the holidays. There wasn't any treif in the house, but it wasn't strictly kosher either. We became Americanized, I guess. All three of us were bar mitzvah to Shereth Israel. When Louise and I got married at Temple, the decision was an easy one. Number one, she didn't understand Hebrew, and she didn't like the 4-hour services on high holy days. And I wasn't crazy about sitting for 4 hours at a whack, so we joined Temple, and over the years, both my brothers joined Temple. In kind of thinking about this interview, one of the things that I lacked growing up was a mentor. I didn't have older brothers or cousins or aunts or uncles that knew the, quote, the American way. So I had to figure out this stuff on my own. Some of it I figured out, some of it I'm still bewildered over, but the bottom line is that, so I was clueless, but I was still alive and I was here.
Well, you also made quite an impact on the Jewish community, as we'll get to. Tell me this, you lived on Forest Avenue, then you moved to Preston Hollow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you went to the Preston Hollow Elementary School.
No, actually, when we moved, I went straight into Benjamin Franklin in the 9th grade.
Right.
My brothers went to Dealey.
Did your family have any interactions with the Gentile community as you were growing up?
Except for the fact that it was a Gentile community that rented tuxedos, there wasn't any, I don't think there was any interaction.
Yeah.
You know, we went to Benjamin Franklin and then Hebrew High School, AKA Hillcrest, but you know, that was pretty much it. I don't think my parents had any Gentile friends. I had some in high school that I keep in touch with to this day. I think David Harrell probably had some in high school too, but that was about it.
Well, tell me something about the projects or the work that, I see a big list. Well, tell me some of the organizations or some of your accomplishments that you are very proud of.
When I was at the bank, I was the only Jewish guy at the bank, which is hard to comprehend because Republic National Bank was built by Fred Florence. It was the same Fred Florence that donated the land that Temple Emanu-El sits on. And my father-in-law, Abner Aronoff, was one of my best rooters, if you will. And his brother-in-law, Henry Schlinger, who was my favorite mishpucha that I inherited, I think it was Henry that put out the word that I needed to get involved. And I was asked to be on I think my first board was Golden Acres. I served on Golden Acres board for a couple of years. I've served on a lot of what I call kind of minor things. Golden Acres was the first. I have a nephew that died of cystic fibrosis, and I became while he was still alive, I worked on the cystic fibrosis board and became president of cystic fibrosis. And it was a very interesting situation being a local president that was basically in a chapter of a national organization, so there was a completely different learning curve. The other projects that I've taken on as president of Temple Emanu-El Brotherhood, and the interesting thing about that ordeal, not an ordeal, the interesting thing about that project was just managing a lot of different personalities. It was like managing a small company. And I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed working for the Temple. And I'm not still involved, I'm back involved because I'm repaying a favor to somebody that's now the president. After Dad died, I was asked to be president of the Holocaust Center. And my greatest accomplishment there was merging the Holocaust Center with the, quote, second generation of Holocaust survivors, and groping through the politics of a lot of people's egos and stuff like that. As I said, my dad was one of 7 or 9 Holocaust survivors that came up with the idea of a Holocaust Center during a Yom Kippur break at Sheretz Israel. And they really worked tirelessly to make it what it is today. We're all kind of sitting around waiting to see when and if a new building will be established, but I think in due time it probably will. So I've always enjoyed community service of that type. It's been a diversion from other things that have gotten in the way, like work. But it's, for the most part, it's fun. I'm not actively looking for anything else. I just turned 70 years old. I've been there, I've done that. And like I said, I'm repaying a favor by being involved with Temple Brotherhood right now.
Is that because of Scott McCartney?
It's part of Steve Levine.
Oh, Steve Levine.
When I was president, I twisted Steve's arm to be my treasurer. And so it's now payback time.
I see here you also handled the account of the Republic Bank, since you were the only Jew.
Yeah, it actually paid off very well for me. And I'll tell you a quick little story. When I first started at the bank, here comes Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And the bank had a policy of no paid dates for the first 6 months. So I go to my boss and I say, what about our high holy days? And this Goy/Gentile was completely blown away, didn't know what I was talking about. So he said, I'll check it out. So he checks it out, and he said, yes, you've got the days off. Fast forward, and here it is December. I'm at my desk, and it's Hanukkah. And this guy comes to me, he says, Bill, what are you doing here? And I said, I have a job, don't I? He said, yeah, but it's Chanukah or something like that. So I had to explain to Fred Gray the hierarchy of the various holidays that we celebrate. Not the fact that God took a day off or anything like that, but the biggest plum of being the only Jew at Republic National Bank is the fact that our arch competitor, First National, had Larry Budner as a member of the Columbian Club, and Republic Bank couldn't be outdone, so I became a member of the Columbian Club. And I enjoyed that perk for a long time.
So it seems to me that you were treated very, very well as a single Jew.
Yes, I was. Yeah. Not that I worked the system, but it just, by happenstance, I was in the right place at the right time.
That is really interesting. Also, you said that in your paper here, you were on the ADL board. What was that like, the adoption committee?
The adoption committee, I was on Jewish Family Service Board. And Jewish Family Service is the organization that helped settle us when we came to Dallas. And I still have a warm place in my heart for what JFS does. I was involved on the adoption committee when Martin Litwin was president, and kind of enjoyed the challenges of developing policy regarding Jewish kids that needed to be adopted. And I think one of the first things, not one of the first things, but I think this was so early on, was our discussions regarding adoption by gay couples. And this goes back 20 plus years. So they were ahead of their times.
They were definitely ahead of their times. When you were in high school, what were some of the activities that you really liked?
I was clueless in high school. I was a geek. I was part of the marching band. I ran around with other geeks. The one good thing that came out of University of Texas was that I was now a cool guy in the fraternity, and it was a confidence builder. High school, I was belonged to Young Judea when everybody else on the planet belonged to AZA. Going back to the the thing I said a few minutes ago, I didn't have anybody to tell me, do this instead of that. I just had to learn the hard way. And I can remember an episode when I was in grade school, coming home and having trouble with a math problem. And my parents couldn't help me. And I could see that it was really stressful for them not being able to help me. And they were able to find another immigrant who had a daughter that was a few years older than I am that tried to help, that helped me. So, but for the most part, everything's been good.
How did your parents adjust to America when they came? Sounds like it.
That's a good question. There was a real strong support system with other survivors. My parents, especially my dad, was very social. He was involved with, I think they call it the Dallas Newcomers Club. He was involved early on with Dallas Hebrew Free Loans. And, like between the survivors and the Sheriff Israel, they were pretty active.
They supported each other.
They supported each other. They have had friends until they died, lifelong friends.
Name some of the people.
Some of the people would be Martin and Ann Donald, Leon and Greta Zetley, Irma and Izzy Freudenreich, Jack and Ann Stein. I'll think of some others, but it was a pretty close-knit group.
Did your parents ever belong to the Arbiterim? Since you said they were Yiddishists, it was kind of the socialist.
No, I don't think so.
No, they were. Yeah.
Well, keep in mind that they worked 6 days a week.
Of course.
So there's a night out, their social calendar was basically Sunday nights. Yeah.
Tell us how you met Louise.
I was dating Louise's best friend. And coincidentally, Louise and my brothers were in the same class at Hillcrest High School. Louise and I have been married a little over 46 years. So she's still on a trial basis, and vice versa.
Be careful.
Yeah, so.
What was the name of who you were dating?
I was dating Emily Hurst, Mickey Hurst's younger sister.
Okay, so finish how you met her that way. I mean, did you?
I met her
then?
when I was at North Texas. I worked at a men's shop, and one of the first men's shops in North Park called the Canterbury Shop. And Louise and Emily and Nikki Hurst and 2 or 3 others, about 5 or 6 girls that just ran around together. One of the girls was Sandra Lynn, whose brother-in-law was the owner of the Canterbury Shop. So North Park was a novelty in the 60s, and it was a great place to hang out. So actually I fixed Louise up on a date with one of my best friends for New Year's Eve while I was dating her friend, and it just, she overwhelmed me with her beauty.
She is darling. How long were you dating before you married?
Probably about 2 years. During our courtship, I went into the service, went to boot camp, and came out of boot camp back to Dallas, finished up my degree. We talked about my stellar academic life. What I find interesting, having flunked out of Texas, I went to Southwestern Graduate School of Banking at SMU, got a advanced degree from that, from SMU, then spent 2 years on their faculty. So once I learned how to discipline and study, became relatively easy.
So what was your position in the service?
I had actually two. I was in the reserves. I initially was a canvas and web repairman. I could sew tents, and I could sew all the canvas harnessings. It had nothing to do with the fact that my dad was a tailor. It was pure coincidence that I was assigned that position. The reservists in those days were a bunch of goof-offs. We found a way not to go to Vietnam, pure and simple. The reservists today, poor guys that are in Afghanistan and things like that, have kind of elevated the I don't know what the right word is, being a reservist. I mean, these guys getting blown up and shot like everybody else. So the reservist commitment was 6 years. So after I came back from boot camp and got really bored with doing nothing at meetings, I volunteered, and that's a bad thing to do in the Army. I volunteered for the NCO Academy, non-commissioned officers. So I went through that academy and then was asked to be on the faculty of that academy, and ultimately became the head of it for the Dallas-Fort Worth area until it was time to get out of the service and resign my commission, if you will.
Tell me about your daughters, where they went to school and what their involvement was or wasn't in the Jewish community.
Both girls, Kathy and Paulette, went through private school in Dallas. Kathy went to and graduated from Hockaday. Paulette graduated from Episcopal School of Dallas. Their Jewish involvement was BBYO, which was great. Both of them went to University of Texas. Both of them were 85s at the University of Texas. They both had a good time, but they somehow knew things that I didn't know, like study habits. Kathy, after graduation, was a elementary school teacher at Zumwalt here in Dallas, and she was one of 6 Caucasian teachers in the school, and she basically was burned out by the lack of support from the principal and things like that. So she quit teaching, went to Atlanta. One of her girlfriends lived in Atlanta. Kathy found a job in Atlanta, met her current husband in Atlanta. Then they moved to Austin about 4 or 5 years ago. She is the office manager for a software company in Austin. Best job description is she's kind of the mother hen. She loves her job, they love her, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Paulette, who just turned 40, graduated from Texas, worked in the advertising world here in Dallas, decided that she wanted to live in New York, went to New York, enjoyed New York for about 10 years, decided she had enough of the 10-foot snow drifts and sub-zero temperature, left New York the day before Hurricane Sandy hit, moved to Austin, and she works for an advertising media type company I don't understand all the ins and out of, and lives probably 20 or 30 minutes away from Kathy. So they're close, which we're happy. They come to Dallas periodically. We go to Austin. Austin is a perfect place for them because it's far enough away that they can't come here every weekend, and it's close enough where when they do want to come here, then they can.
And they don't have to bring their dirty laundry every week.
They have done that too, yes.
No, I mean, every week.
Yeah, we don't want that, but you know, they do. For some reason, the washing machines don't work as well in Austin as they do here in Dallas. But bottom line is they're good kids.
Tell me, think about what the changes of Dallas from when you were growing up to now that are so important.
I think that Dallas has been explosive as far as the growth. It is, to me, and this is the only place I've ever lived outside of college and the Army, but it is amazing how well Dallas has been led by a group of guys that maybe numbered 10 or 12 or 15. We've got one big black mark on our history, but it's been a great place to be in business. Nothing that is out there that's not on the road to working fantastic. It'd be interesting to see what the mayor does as far as getting South Dallas and Oak Cliff up and running. But there are areas of Oak Cliff that are fantastic. Yeah. If I was 20 or 30 years younger, I told Louise we'd probably be living in Kessler Park. It's a beautiful area.
What was the Jewish community like as versus today? How would you compare?
Jewish community when I was growing up was you knew everybody in town. If you didn't belong, put it this way, regardless of which synagogue you belonged to, and there were only 3 of them at the time, you knew everybody in town. I think in the 60s, the total Jewish population was maybe 20 or 25,000. I would guess that the Jewish population is now probably pretty close to 250,000 in Dallas-Fort Worth and the Metroplex. I'm blown away at the fact that there's probably, in the Metroplex, there's probably 24 synagogues. It's mind-boggling. I know they're out there. I haven't been to many of them. I tend to stay inside of LBJ because I'm one of those Dallas snobs.
Who doesn't go further?
There's no need to go north of LBJ. There's no need whatsoever.
So, in concluding, maybe you've hit it, but who would be your role models? I know you told me you didn't have any at the time, but somebody must have been ahead of you.
Of all the mishpucha that I inherited when I married into the Aronoff family, Henry Schlinger comes to the very top. I thought he was just a class act, smart, intelligent, just a wonderful, wonderful person. Like everybody else, we all miss him. I mean, he was just a good guy.
What are you most proud of today?
Well, you know, it sounds trite, my kids, and the fact that they don't do drugs that I know of. There might be an occasional joint out there, but you know, my kids, the fact that Louise has put up with me for 45 plus years, I think that I've done okay as far as professionally and financially. Bottom line is life is good.
And one more question. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think that's pretty much the life of Jack Belzowski Bell.
Thanks so much, Jack. It was wonderful, and life is good, you've made it good, and thanks for all your help.
What else is there to complain about, you know?
Sounds good to me. Thanks so much.
So this is for us?